Which is greater, your ignorance or your knowledge? Now, the answer to that question is obvious. What you don't know runs out into infinity and beyond, while what we do know has limitations. What we don't know will always far exceed what we do know because our ignorance operates out in God's omniscience, and we can never have that much awareness. Thus, the question becomes, what do you think about your knowledge limitations? When you think about what you don't know, what do you think about? How does that make you feel? And also, how are you responding to the discrepancy between what you do know and all you don't know? And so, how does it make you feel? And then, how are you responding to it? What are your action steps to react to all that you don't know? Now, question one is, does your lack of awareness, does it discourage you? Or does it fill you with a lot of curious optimism? And so when you think about all that you don't know, is that a discouraging thing, or is it something that just fills you with so much optimism that you want to know? Have you heard about the boy in a room full of manure? There were two boys, and these two boys, one of them had everything that you could imagine, and the other boy had virtually nothing. And they put the boy who was spoiled, they put him in a room, and he had every toy that you could imagine in that room, and all the toys were painted red. They came back about an hour later and they looked in on him, and the boy was sitting in the middle of the room and he was pouting. And they said, "Why are you pouting? You have everything in the world as far as toys are concerned." And he said, "They're red, and I don't like red." Well, the other boy, they actually put him in a room full of manure that was right up to the door level. And so they shoved him on top of this big pile room full of manure and closed the door. And they came back an hour later, and this boy was digging like a steam shovel. He was just busy digging to the bottom of all that manure. And they asked him, they said, "Well, why, what's going on here? Why are you so," you could say, "Why are you so optimistic? Why are you so energetic?" And the boy said, "Well, I figured with a room full of so much manure that there has to be a pony down there somewhere." And so when you think about what you don't know, does it fill you with optimism and an eagerness to learn, or are you overwhelmed and discouraged? And so that is question number one. How does it make you feel? Question number two, how are you responding? How are you reacting to your ignorance? Are you eagerly and regularly exploring, digging to the bottom to find that pony? Trying to reach the unlimited reaches of your ignorance? One of the traits of this kind of person is unabated curiosity. The curious person, to be curious, curiosity is a gift. You might characterize some who are not curious and they don't ask questions. And one of the reasons that they aren't curious or they don't want to explore their ignorance is because they are afraid. They struggle with fear. They're motivated by pride. They don't want to let on that they don't know something. And so they're very comfortable with what they have, and they don't see this vast expanse of ignorance out here as something to explore and something that will actually cause great growth and maturity. But these folks are humble. The curious folks are humble about knowing things, and they're very eager to learn. When you think about two of our most popular cultural icons today, there is one characteristic that you will find that they have in common: Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan. Now, I don't recommend Joe Rogan because he's a vulgar individual, and so I'm not recommending him at all. He is extremely vulgar. But as you understand them, Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan, they are very curious people. They ask a lot of questions. They explore. They want to know, and that, by the way, has a lot to do with their popularity. And the thing is that they know a lot. They are insanely rich. They are super successful, but they have a childlike curiosity. And I think when you think about people who already know a lot and are insanely rich and super successful, it's not intuitive that you would think that they have a childlike curiosity. Jordan, no doubt, is on a Mensa level as far as his IQ is concerned, but there is a curious humility about him. Now, I want to apply that to us. The best counselors, the best disciple makers. When you think about the best counselors or the best disciple makers, there are at least two qualities that they have. One of those is an insatiable desire to study people. That is the overarching desire or passion of their life, that they're insanely curious about people as a whole, generally speaking. That is on the macro. But then on the micro, they have a deep curiosity about the person that's sitting in front of them. They have a deep curiosity about discipling the person or counseling the person that they're helping. And so, one of the ways that you can assess as to whether you are a good counselor or you have the capacity to grow into a good counselor, do you have an insatiable desire to study people, just to what makes people tick? And then, number two, when you're meeting with a person, you are just deeply curious about what's going on in their life. They ask the best questions, these people, and they explore a person's darker and hidden and more mysterious aspects. They are aware that they don't know, and so they study people, and they're aware that they don't know on the micro, and so they do deep dives into people because they are curious. And so the question is, which is greater, your ignorance or your knowledge? Well, obviously our ignorance is far greater. So how do you respond to it? How do you feel about that? Does it make you optimistic and eager and just want to go on these explorations, or are you comfortable with what you have, and you're not interested in learning and growing and maturing in areas that you're unfamiliar with? And so, how do you feel about that? And then, number two, how are you reacting to it? Are you just living within these self limiting bounds because of a lack of curiosity, or is your curiosity driving you into God's omniscience to learn more, to learn things that you did not know? The curious people are people that, like as I illustrated with these cultural icons, Jordan and Joe. This is part of what makes them who they are, and it's one of the things that are so interesting about them. But then, as we bring it down to being a discipler or a counselor, if you don't have the gift of curiosity, then it will be hard to be good at doing the work of disciple making.